Yeah.
some form of libation. Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, we've returning guest, one of my most listened to guests, Dr. Hans Uter, and this will be part 8 of the Advanced Soviet Research on Cybernetics, Biofield, Energetics, and Cognitive Restructuring. So we'll be going back to this document where we left off. Hans wants to kind of backtrack a little bit and recover some of the stuff we went over last time. But I remember we stopped right at that port technology, which we'll get into. But Hans, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks, William. And so I just wanted to sort of give a grounding to a lot of these things. Number one, that at the level we're at right now, unless you can connect with some ground of truth in yourself, with the universe, you know what I mean? It's going to be very difficult as things are coming, right?
Yeah,
We have this Bangladesh, entire government overthrown. You know about that?
yeah, it happened
They
today,
did.
though.
They tore apart the presidential palace, like all that
Wow.
stuff. So this is anything can happen at any time, right? But one of the interesting things of course all of these factors or exposures, different types of sensitivities, changing social normative conditions subtly, etc. Um, these are all external inputs, right, that are coming into you. And so it's very important that you, first of all, recognize that, you know, you are, you're alive in this amazing human body. Who cares? I don't need science to tell me. Now, it's great. Yeah, I think everyone should understand anatomy, understand the structure of the body, understand how sensory perceptions work, understand some of these things about consciousness, right? But you also want to go beyond that, and I won't go too much into this, but you want to have a spiritual ground that is what will carry you through this. Otherwise, we're looking at a level of manipulation um, it's kind of hard to comprehend because honestly, right? Most of the time we are semi-conscious. I mean, no, you have to be organized, you have to be focused, but are you fully aware of your entire body? Are you fully aware of every stimulus around you? Of course not. If you are, right? I mean, unless you have reached extremely high level of mental precision, or else you're a martial artist, you're a trained assassin, you're in a military operation, you're a high level spiritual practitioner, whatever. You know, these states are never really available, and if we're aware of every single thing happening to us at every moment and how it's influencing us, we can't really function, right? It's difficult to function. But the clarity, and so just going back, as I mentioned, the theory of evolution as really being a core facet in all these things. Okay, so the theory of evolution, A, it says everything is random. B, you're a monkey, you're protoplasm, you're just a random accident of these random particles that just came together. Which, if you really think about it, it doesn't really make sense, right? I mean, you can, as uh critics have said, I think one of the, from this counter view, from the Russian military, I think a quote from this guy said, like, you take a watch apart and leave it there, how many aeons is that watch ever going to reassemble itself into a working watch?
Right.
I mean, that's just a basic example.
Yeah.
Compared to life, nothing. But all these things, it's important to be aware of. And then also that, to realize that some things, that affect you may be an actual external input, right?
Right.
So, if you ever noticed, say, William, say in a public space, you've got some kind of weird smell coming, so lighting pattern,
Sure.
you may not even notice that. A lot of this stuff again is pre-conscious threshold. It's being, you know, we're focusing on the goal. We're going A to B. We're doing this or that, or we're ruminating on our situation, or we're just, you know, caught up in our social media profile, or we're just a zombie, or we're just an egotistical animal without any higher. Well, hopefully no one listening to this show is like that, but there's people like that. That, you know, the person who is, I mean, no offense, and I don't want to do a racial controversy, but look at the stabbing in London. I mean, whatever. But you have people, they, but you know
They're
what?
on a lower frequency on a
But
lot of stuff.
they're very grounded, and they know who they are. They don't have self doubt. They don't have self hatred. They don't have guilt. They just do. They're doing what they're doing, but they've also been empowered, right? And this type of thing is being empowered. So for people that are reflective, people that have more, say, spiritual poetry available to them, people that have some consideration of this thing, then you're not gonna be as, you're not like a machine, or else just totally driven by your egoic desires, like a serial killer, like a rapist, like a whatever. But it doesn't mean that you can't, focus on your goals, et cetera, et cetera. But what I'm saying is that those that have much more of a dull consciousness, right? You know what I mean? They're very simple, AB, almost like animalistic drives, have a distinct advantage among people with higher thresholds, unless you integrate this and unless you start to understand that not everything you experience is coming from you or from some external memory or factor you associate it with. So it's very important. Then once that's, you know, you get that recognition and you start to develop mental clarity and to realize difference between what you're thinking and imagining, what you're actually experiencing sensorially, what you're feeling, and you start going deeper and finding a ground. And that ground ultimately is not your own, right? This is coming from something beyond you. This is where you find sanctuary. So I just want to say, I hope everyone finds sanctuary, and I'm not trying to, you know, create a disempowering space.
Right. It's very important these days, though, because there's a lot of chaos going on in the world, and it doesn't seem to be letting up. So, uh, especially with this election cycle, it could, who knows what could be unleashed.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, we're living, that Chinese curse, right? Interesting times.
Yeah, you're very
We are
true.
really very interesting. But anyways, so let's continue. But the great stuff thing about this is that you really start learning. Wow, these things really affect my mind. Consciousness. So just to review a bit, and one last thing. So I mentioned theory of evolution, this whole materialistic framework. But if we look at, for example, the Jory Lena thing, we didn't really get into that deeply. That would have been a whole nother can of worms. But he
Yeah,
goes
it's a
through
whole other show. Yeah.
all the Masonic connections, all the astrological ritual things that were done in the communist takeover for the supposed total materialists and atheists.
Right. Good point. Yeah.
So that's important. Okay. So you're going through, so just as a overview too, we want to see that the sort of one of the beauties of creation is that everything comes in small sort of fractal forms, right? That expands out. So our bodies are, I mean, as I'm doing all this research in anatomy, neuroanatomy, I just become more and more amazed. Like, look, the human body is such I mean, it's a miracle. It literally is, right? All these organs, all these systems,
Hyper complex,
but totally integrated.
totally integrated.
And
That's one of the biggest arguments against the theory of evolution is like Darwin just made the human body look so like the human cell looks so simplistic.
like a stick
Yeah.
figure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a joke. It's almost like joke science. You really, because they found out the average human cell is like a Manhattan of activity. Like within it, there's so much going on in one single cell.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, I'm trying to say is that once you gain some awareness of these things, there, if you learn how to recognize, relax, and be present, and have an open heart, and be clear in who you are and what you're doing and why you're doing it, many of these things will dissolve. But you have to access, just thinking about this, these are direct inputs, right? These are input factors. These are event things, right? How do you deal with actual situations that are arising, right? you know this is, so we're looking at, we have to be able to operate in the moment, but we have to also gain more subtlety of understanding and a little bit more clarity without, some of these things like brain, right? Oh, everything's just the brain. No, it's not. I mean, the brain is awesome. You know, I'm glad I got a brain. It's awesome. If I, that the Tin Man in Wizard of Oz, the great Wizard of Oz. That's it. There you go. But anyways, okay, let's just dive in. So that being
But it's
said,
close. The brain it operates within a system. It's within a system because you get the food you eat, your emotions, all kinds of stuff like affects your mind. So
yeah,
it's not like some kind of like overarching. It obviously, manages our systems and stuff like that, but it can be affected by different things outside. Just like you said, things that are conscious, subconscious. There's got to be some layer under the subconscious too. It's like liminal subconscious or something like that.
but but your heart, who you are, you get that. This is different, right? This you have to do this, and it's not, you know, intellect is great, but in these kind of things, the mind, right? The mind becomes distorted. If you could be grounded, if you have something beyond yourself, you have a faith, whatever you want to call it, then these things will affect you, but you're not going to get caught in them. You're not going to become entrained. This all works on entrainment, right? Entrainment and trance like hypnotic settings. So, anyways, so looking at, again, various phenomena we looked at. So olfactory phenomena, seven primary odors have been identified. They are camphorous, musky, floral, minty, pungent, putrid, and ethereal. So these are like fragrance archetypes, right? I don't know that much about fragrance, but fragrance is very closely associated with memory, right?
That's right. Yeah.
You have the Marcel Proust, Remembrance of Things Past. Familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but smell was the big trigger for him, right? And so, and that's a very interesting book, well, three books, the trilogy. But so,
Super detailed. Wasn't he like known for being very detailed about his atmospherics and settings and things like that?
absolutely, that's what's so important. But what he did is he completely withdrew from the world, right? Absolutely, and just activated all of his memories completely in all these different modalities, and then that's what the book is about.
Wow.
So, you know, and so a lot of, just one thing to say though too is that because of our, our entertainment, complex, all these films, loud concerts, so many things have become externalized, right? So even like television, movies, this is taking away your own inner imagination. It's externalized. Then okay. Anyways, so fragrance is very, very important, and it's mostly unconscious unless it radically impugns in our consciousness, right? Which means that maybe, okay, or you're directing it. Oh, I'm going to see if this food is good, or I'm going to smell this rose, or man, this area smells really bad, right? But that's a sense. It's, again, very, very. It goes directly into the brain, right? But largely unconscious, right? Heidegger says about tool and broken tool. Little tangent, but it's important because, again, I want to, provide a grounding so you're not caught in this. Because if when you start to see the immensity of the level of manipulation and the continuous application of all these different layers surrounding you, right? It can just cause a shutdown. So that's, you'll prevent that. But Martin Heidegger, the philosopher, writer, author of Being in Time, but he talks about tool and broken tool. So the tool, in a sense, becomes an extension of yourself. Your car. For example, if you're just going, I have to go here, unless your car is broken, then suddenly it it rises up, becomes apparent to you, right? Otherwise, it's part of the background. It's the part of this unconscious flow, which is the wonderful adaptive mechanism, we have as human beings. At the same time, this is what has been which is basically the ability to consolidate perceptions, right? And to have things that you just do automatically. You don't have to think about them or consider them. Driving a car, again, great example. But um, this also is the doorway for all these types of entrainment, all these types of mental behavioral affect. So, anyways, so we have 7 primary odors. All odors can be created from these 7 primary scents, fragrances. And again, I mentioned, but even just starting to notice smell, and this is a lot of times when things like this are affecting us, we want to block it out, right? We want, like, I honestly, even going over this document, I've noticed certain things where you go into a place and it does have like a weird odor, but you put it out of your consciousness, but maybe it's affecting your mood, maybe it's affecting your cognitive patterns. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
no doubt. I've been in old folks' homes, and some of them are musty or they just have an off smell, and it does make your mood fits that smell. You know what I mean? Like it's some they're not like really optimal places for like you know freshness or happiness or something like that. Sometimes they're not as
yeah, so just
uh,
briefly, so like man expresses pleasure. This is a great, I love this document, I gotta say.
it's
It,
amazing. It's really incredible. I'm super impressed by like how detailed it is and how well written. It's really something else.
and this is a tangent, but there's a couple things like Report from Mountain and then the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. Both those documents to me seem spurious, just on the, not necessarily in what they're saying, but it's like, these type, military documents like, we are overlords of the universe. We will control you through for our
Yeah.
powers, you know.
Well, this one's distinctly different from those two. Like because
Absolutely.
this has some like really detailed information and like really granular kind of analysis, where those are kind of like written like, and they also have a backstory, like a secret backstory. Like I think one was found like on a printer or a hard disk or something like that. Secret weapons for quiet wars, but that put them in the kind of like protocols of the elders of Zion, like some kind of like intel operation that got loosed or something.
There's a very similar writing style you find, right? Like Report from Iron Mountain.
Yeah.
But see, what this does is actually discredit the factual information, right?
Right.
And,
Yes.
and then also it, anyways, okay, that was
That's a whole nother show. Like secret release documents to entrain the public mind or something like weird, well written propaganda pieces. I think it was proven that the Protocols of the Elders of Zion was written by Russian intelligence, but then it kind of broke out. It's still like an anti, it's just a well written piece of anti-Semitism that isn't real, but it has the patina of reality, I guess.
yeah. But then what happens again? You have the very simple propaganda technique, poisoning in the well.
Yeah.
Produce a spurious document with
Promote it with your
lots of
assets.
factual information, but you've now poisoned the well. Or okay. Anyways, so back to this. So man expresses pleasure or displeasure to various odors. So think about that: pleasure or displeasure. Attraction, aversion. If escape is hindered or if odors are used with surprise, they may elicit certain behavioral changes in the individual. Odors are suitable for use in controlled situations and in the field. Okay, so we'll go on from that. Light, real quick. So, customly specify the range of visible light, 400 to 750 millimicrons. Um, so we have eye stimulation. Um, so just at the bottom, non-rhythmic bright lights can interrupt or prevent sleep. Think about all the light we're exposed to now, right? it's very hard to get away from like, um, and we can, let's see, go to the next page.
Okay, sure.
So psychological effect of flashing lights and photic flicker. Okay. So this is very important. We look at the psychedelic era. We look at flash cuts, look at music videos, look at
TV,
film,
yeah,
TV, everything. This is all photic driving.
yeah,
Occasionally with embedded sigil things, you can see in the little thing, but this is all photic driving. Very important. Um, Did I say anything wrong?
no, you're right. I mean, this is like what people are exposed to all day long: video games, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and so think about a really meticulous understanding of these
Right,
things,
right,
and certain of these things again will have effects that they're not. You're not going to have a direct correlation between if someone shoots you, you get stabbed, you fall off a ladder, you stub your toe, whatever. Here's a contact point, here's the force impulse, here's the injury. Other things create types of destabilization, types of moods, types of brain fog, tension, stress, this, that. If you're unaware of that, right? A lot of times, most people, they want to suppress it or they're going to project it into their own personal limited narrative, right? Oh, I just feel stressed now because I have to do this. That's the point, right? You bring your life narrative into one of these stimula, and then this creates this whole web. So we're not, like sort of biophysical control matrix, right? With
right,
inputs from all these media sources, from this and that, and then you never really conscious ever, right? You're just like a boat buffeting about on an ocean, right?
right,
And you're holding on to this thing, but the whole boat is a false boat, right? It's not really a boat. It's what you're holding on to is what is anchoring all this stuff occurring to you. Then you get psychosis, schizophrenia, right? The personality is turned against itself. Ultimately, that's part of what this is turning the self against the self, misdirecting awareness of these input factors. Okay. Anyways, um, so again, sound. So you want to read number two? Just read that.
yeah. Let's do it. Auditory effects have been and still are researched. Nerve deafness can certainly result from prolonged exposure to loud sounds. For the purpose of this study, it is believed that the non auditory effects are just as important when discussing behavioral alterations. For example, exposure to a siren generated sound of 20 kilohertz at 1 watt per square centimeter kills a variety of insect life in 3 to 4 minutes, and larger animals, mice, in about 1 minute. Human operators with earplugs experience cool, sizzling sensations in the mouth and an unpleasant tingling in the nasal passages when near the siren.
All right, you can continue.
Sound can be used on controlled groups or in the field. Sound can produce behavioral changes, and the effects of sound on humans is being investigated in the Soviet Union. For these reasons, a more detailed discussion can be found later in this report.
I just do the last thing part.
Electromagnetic energy, super high frequency electromagnetic oscillations, SHF, may have potential use as a technique for altering human behavior. It does. Soviet Union and other foreign literature sources contain over 500 studies devoted to the biological effect of SHF. Lethal and non-lethal aspects have been shown to exist. In certain non-lethal exposures, definite behavioral changes have occurred. There also appears to be a change in mammals when exposed to SHF in the sensitivity to sound, light, and olfactory stimuli.
Okay, so there's a lot in there, right? So just want to give a range, right? And these are things like, this was written in the early 70s. So
Right.
think where we are now, right?
Correct.
And so just an important thing, behavioral effects, which even the sound is not audible,
Right.
or there's things embedded or encoded, it can produce behavioral changes, but then also very important, changes sensitivity to other inputs, other sensory fields. right? They'd be
Right.
other sensory inputs become distorted, mitigated, right? So, like for example, you're at a rock concert. We were talking about that Astroworld, right?
Right.
This is Astroworld. Who knows what? Like, you know what I mean? Like the sound, suddenly you're not noticing that there's like a poison gas. I'm not saying there's a poison gas, but I'm saying like technically, right? Or
Right.
something
Mhm.
else is happening, right?
Everybody said weird things happened at Audio World, like or Astro World, like they tripped out or they were in some hypnotic days or like weird things happened. So maybe they were exposed to stuff they weren't aware of. We don't even know. I mean, wouldn't it be a great front for like government testing to like have a rapper or somebody in your pocket and just say, just play your regular stuff. We're going to bring out some different speakers and maybe some noise and some lights. You don't have to worry about that. We're going to handle it and then just test it on a whole. They've done it before. Actually, the government has done drug testings on unsuspecting people and whole cities. They literally did like biological warfare tests in San Francisco, and they released LSD on a whole town of French citizens without
Yeah,
telling them.
I know
You ever
about
heard that
that.
story?
Oh yeah, of course.
Like, I mean, how horrible is that? Oh, by the way, we're just going to spray your whole French, like, rural town with LSD and just watch and see what happens. Like, all the people end up at the hospital. They're acting schizophrenic in the streets.
But
Like,
you know what's super interesting though is you have to see how this is framed, right, in the culture, right? Look at Devils of London, Aldous Huxley's novel or book, and then you have
Devils of Loudon. It's
Loudon.
Loudon.
Loudon. Yeah, I should have said London.
It's okay.
I should not have said London.
It's
I
a
knew.
great book. There's actually a good movie about that, too. It's, it'll come to me. I think it's either called The Devils or something like that.
Yeah, no, that's
Ken Russell.
Ken Russell. That's
With
and
the infamous guy who was like
that
killed him.
that movie is like a
Yeah,
freak
it's
show.
crazy. It's not safe for NSFW, by the way. But who was the lead actor? He like died on the set of Gladiator. Like he went
Oh yeah,
drinking
yeah,
and
yeah.
he died. He challenged somebody some kind of drinking contest and died. I
That's
forgot
a
his
dumb.
name.
That's
Oliver Reed. Oliver Reed.
That's like a really dumb way to go. Like, I mean, I died on the battlefield. No, I died
At a pub
in a
after
pub
drinking like
drinking coffee.
27 pints and a bottle of whiskey or something.
Ah.
Some of those guys, that's the way they go out. That's just the way they lived his life, especially English people or Scottish or something like that. Dude, I was reading something. I mean, this is not definitely off topic, but I was reading something about guys in bars in Dublin who go in the morning and drink 30 pints a day. Like that's their day.
Man, that is some.
That's serious, man.
That's like omega level drinking.
Yeah, no, you can look it up. Like Irish guys,
Wow.
that's their weekend. I'm going to the pub. I'll be gone all day, drinking 30 pints. I'm not kidding. Anyway,
Okay.
but yeah, so The Devils of Loudon was a Huxley book and also a movie, but it's based upon some guy who was like kind of a cult leader, kind of
Well, but it was based on that cult was caused by, at least the hypothesis, the ergot mushroom, right? So they were getting the rye bread. They were getting LSD.
They were getting some kind of.
They were getting,
and that was rumored to be the same thing in ancient Greece as well. Is that they were using psychedelics like the ergot, and yeah, did them in. So anyway, they made them.
Again,
psychedelics go way back. Do you know that the Romans had like a fish they used to lick and do psychedelic trips?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no, there was like a fish that they would literally lick, and it would get it was like licking a frog or something like that. It would put him on a psychedelic state. You can look that up.
Well, I also like the magic mushrooms, of course, and the Aztec human sacrifice. Human sacrifice cult, right? I mean, the Aztecs. I mean, that was pretty dark.
Dude, it doesn't get darker. It's the darkest stuff.
It's like that. Like you had to give a shout out to Mel Gibson, right? Because there's so much. And great film with.
Right, but if you want to talk about light, sound, and all that, all and auditory and olfactory, it's all there with the Aztec priests and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. But okay, let's move on here. So, do we cover a page? So 22. So this is like
It's
a
18,
so we're
22.
moving from the more sort of material. Bio 22 just gives an overview,
Bioenergetics.
bioinformation. Um, so just yeah, so
We read this. This was the space flights and telepathy. And then here's the
okay.
apport
So
technique.
let's go to the apport technique. Rome, you can go ahead and
Want me to read that? You want me
yep.
to start
Go
it?
ahead.
Apport is spelled Apport. It's a very unusual word. So, section 3, the apport technique. 1. The following discussion on apports and astral projection is not intended to be an endorsement for its scientific verification or even its existence. However, reputable scientists in the USSR and the US are keenly interested in this phenomenon. Areas that appear to have potential must be discussed, even if only briefly. 2. According to Welk, you want me to stop? You want to...
No, keep going. Keep going.
According to Welk, a costly weakness in our intelligence system to a large extent is an inability to use effectively the resources of the science of parapsychology. There are some definite indicators that the Soviets realized the potential of psi, which will be reported later in the section. Whenever parapsychology is mentioned, most people are likely to think of ESP. However, there are other types of parapsychological phenomena which are just as important militarily as ESP. Welk claims, based on many Soviet sources, that the so-called apport technique is likely to meet valuable intelligence needs. When fully developed, this technique would make possible the abduction of actual objects, including documents, in enemy territory and their transfer to friendly territory. Objects so abducted are known as apports. They could be returned to the point of origin without the enemy becoming aware of this temporary abduction.
Just keep going.
All right, let's go back.
So number
3. Some of the world's most eminent scientists from the late 1800s to the early 1900s have claimed to have witnessed apport phenomena. Those include Sir William Crookes, 1832-1919, British chemist and physicist, discoverer of the element thallium and former president of the British Association for the Advancement of Scientists. Alfred Russel Wallace, 1923-1913, British naturalist and co-discoverer with Charles Darwin of the theory of evolution. Johann K.F. Zollner, professor of physical astronomy at the University of Leipzig, Germany. 4. In the discussion of such an esoteric subject as apports, it is deemed sufficient to relate only one experience claimed to have occurred to Sir William Crookes. The interested reader can consult the non-cited bibliography for further references. The following account is taken from pages 87 and 88 for reference, class 9. The appearance of hands either self-luminous or visible by ordinary light. Do you want to read that?
Yeah. So if we're going, so the support technique, tied in with astral projection, and with all these other elements, and we can see parallel types of research taking place in the United States, in the Soviet Union, right? So you have very different clinical conditions. So as I sort of argued in the beginning a little bit, there is potentially an overarching interconnection between these things, at least on the sort of the highest levels, right? And so culturally, obviously, the Russian culture is very distinct from you know normal Western culture, but also you have a very controlled population, totally different things. Not and you have other inclinations of of the funding, but we see the same thing as I mentioned. That big ESP thing right when the Berlin Wall fell, which is we maybe show that at some point, but it's just he's like on like a Jerry Springer type of talk show.
Right. He
It's
looks like one of the like an American talk show.
yeah, but then he does this hypnotic induction, and you'll get these waves of energy and blah blah blah. Oh, it didn't work. Oh, billions and billions of dollars and research, even pre-Soviet, right? From, the 1900s, 70 and 90 years of research and money. Just, it's all BS. It just doesn't work. Oops. What I mean? It's
Yeah.
but, so the apport thing is, a lot of people are familiar with it, but it's quite interesting. And it's another one of these things that's been sort of dissolved, right? Most people are not aware of this whatsoever now.
I've never heard of it. I've
But
even a cursory reading of parapsychology and the many goats and all that other stuff. I've never heard of a port
so go ahead.
technique.
So this is Sir William Crookes again, who was a scientist, and you know these guys were woke, right? I mean, back in this day, these chemists and stuff, these guys were hardcore. I
Yeah,
mean,
very serious.
very high level of intelligence, right?
Yeah, Alfred
And
Russel Wallace is super intelligent. Yeah.
yeah, and also not having all this kind of crap that we have. I mean, interjections, food, toxic food, constant media, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like electromagnetic frequency, saturation, chemtrails, whatever. So these people were very intelligent. So when he's saying this, we should at least put some credence to this statement. So go ahead and read William Crook's statement.
Okay. I, William Crookes, will here give no instances in which the phenomenon has occurred in darkness, but will simply select a few of the numerous instances in which I have seen the hands in the light. I have more than once seen first an object move, then a luminous cloud appear to form about it, and lastly, the cloud condense into shape and become a perfectly formed hand. It is not always a mere form, but sometimes appears perfectly lifelike and graceful, the fingers moving, and the flesh apparently as human as that of any in the room. At the wrist or arm, it becomes hazy and fades off into a luminous cloud. To the touch, the hand sometimes appears icy cold and dead, at other times warm and lifelike, grasping my own with the firm pressure of an old friend. I have retained one of these hands in my own, firmly resolved not to let it escape. But there was no struggle or effort made to get loose, but it gradually seemed to resolve itself into vapor and faded in that manner from my grasp.
So what we're talking about is sort of physical astral projections, right? So again, um, these things, we have to see what things it may be possible that have been moved into fiction, right? Iron Man, or or whatever, or just new age crap or stuff like that. And some of the stuff is so, but we could just keep going for the next number five.
Okay, let's do it. 5. It is a known fact that the Soviet Union takes the appearance of luminous bodies very seriously, as evidenced by the Karelian photography of the human body's aura. It appears that the Soviets may be considering that a hand which appears out of nowhere and can grasp, with the firm pressure of an old friend, another person may have first rate military possibilities. There's been some discussion recently about the prospects of being able to control the apport technique to a point of sophistication where individuals could control these luminous clouds. The individuals who have studied these effects, real or otherwise, have suggested that since these bodies can travel unlimited distances and are able to pass through solid material, walls, they might well be used to produce instant death in military and civilian officials. It is further conjectured that these bodies could disable military equipment or communication nets.
So and so, anyways,
Yeah.
again, where we go to the conclusion, we look at
What
other
was the prophet of the Old Testament who could walk through walls? Do you remember?
I don't, but yeah, I know. Sorry about, but you
Let
know,
me see if I can find that.
but anyways, the next part, it says that it can be inferred that organic matter can be transformed into ectoplasm.
Yeah, right.
That this can be rendered invisible and impalpable, and thus converted into something which, for all practical purposes, amounts to force. If organic matter can be converted into such force matter, it seems reasonable to assume that a physical object, if similarly converted, could travel through space. So, and this is something, though, this was studied, is actually was studied empirically, I mean, by those eminent scientists mentioned, right? And then suddenly it's like it just disappeared from, even you mentioned, even like most books on psi phenomena, they never mention it.
Never. No, I
So
never heard it.
but it was very there's a lot of detailed research on it for decades. So bringing that up, and then just go ahead, number 7, if you like.
It's interesting, the ectoplasm. Two things are certain: that parapsychological phenomena are due to the little known faculties of the subconscious mind, and that the powers of the subconscious mind are vastly superior to those of normal consciousness. That's an interesting statement. The fantastic memory of the subconscious mind, sometimes referred to as photographic memory, is a well-established fact. So its extraordinary mathematical ability So is its extraordinary mathematical ability, which has baffled trained mathematicians to no end. It seems probable that some of these little understood faculties of the subconscious mind have something to do with its ability to put together again an object which it had previously disintegrated, and to manipulate the forces involved in this process. The only way one can learn more about these little understood processes is through intensive study and experimentation. The stakes seem high enough. Wow, crazy.
Yeah. So, so it's, anyways, these are different things, but whether or not these are being deployed, but saying this stuff was researched, who's to say that some of these things are not possible, right? And what
I think even, you're familiar with Indian culture. I think at a certain higher levels of yogis or whatever, or gurus, they're supposed to have these kind of like extrasensory parapsychological powers, right?
well, they're called
Manipulating prana and all that stuff.
they're called cities, right? So cities, there's various cities that arise, with types of development, the biophysical organisms. So yeah, and so this stuff though is, part of it. I just want to stress is that we won't go into the reticular formation, which is the whole thing, but this is a filtration mechanism of consciousness. Things that maybe they're filtered out, you don't see them. Your brain does not let you perceive them. You've chosen that they don't exist. They're not important to you, and these things can be rendered almost entirely invisible. Now, I'm not saying stuff is common. I just think it's interesting. So you want to go ahead and number 9?
Yeah, go ahead and read. My voice
Okay.
gets raspy too easily.
You got that is it that
Who knows? I've talked too much or something.
No, you're on the road again.
Yeah,
You got the Willie Nelson voice. Okay, anyways, number 9. So according to Pullman, director of the Southeast Hypnosis Research Center. Interesting.
Yeah, I gotta look that up. This is 72.
Yeah.
So all these guys are around. Like there's all these hypnotists around in the 60s and 70s. So I got to look up the Southeast Hypnosis Research Center.
Yeah, there's a lot of different threads, and the hypnosis as cerebral inhibition is very different. So I hypnosis is one of those things where it's a misunderstood word, what it actually is. I think that a lot of times people are consciously hypnotized.
But also, if the subconscious is more powerful than the conscious mind, and hypnosis goes into the subconscious, then you're into a dangerous thing.
Well, what I meant is consciously hypnotized means that I'm talking to you, you're listening, you don't feel like you're hypnotized, but part of you is under a hypnotic control. It's not, you're not. So we have these I've talked about this before, but you have like the dramatic, Broadway, Hollywood hypnotist, and they do this crazy stuff. What about a hypnotic trance that you're not? I mean, unless you become very conscious, you're not aware that's even affecting you. And you're going to have a surface awareness, and you'll still think you're doing what you're doing, but part of you is in a trance, and you're being hypnotically suggested to, controlled, etc. I think this happens a lot. I think there's an interface function. So it's a different type of hypnotic trance, which is a type of suggestibility. But I mean, we can just look at modern events. I mean, look at, I keep bashing the masking or whatever, but is that not a type of hypnosis or a trance? That
what's
masking, the masking phenomenon.
What's the masking phenomenon?
Like during COVID, and people.
Oh, right.
People were in a lot of places now. People are masking up all over the place now, right here.
I see them all out all the time, even outside. It's crazy.
But is that not, are they not under some type of hypnosis?
Don't you think? Or they're under some form of brainwashing or mind control.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a hypnosis, which is you think you're completely in control and you're awake,
Right, right.
but you're actually, there's at least some part of you is in this hypnotic trance. Okay, so anyways, number 9, um, according to Paul Fullman, director, okay, mentioned Southeast Hypnosis Research Center, which we should go visit. I'm going to go out there and visit.
Yeah, really. I mean, this is crazy stuff. Like, there's all kinds of weird stuff going on around there. But yeah.
Before the end of the 1970s, Soviet diplomats will be able to sit in their foreign embassies and use ESP, in this case, a form of the apport technique, to steal the secrets of their enemies. See reference 91, page 216. Pullman states that a spy would be hypnotized, then his invisible spirit would be ordered to leave his body, travel across barriers of space and time to a foreign government security facility, and there read top secret documents and relay back their information. Such astral projection has already been accomplished in laboratory settings. Pullman said, adding that Russians are probably now trying to perfect it. Pullman further states that the Soviets are at least 25 years ahead of the U.S. in psychic research. I want to stress that. Right? I said at the beginning of the show. I didn't remember that quote was in there, but I was saying the Soviets, certain ways, were far more advanced than the U.S. Right? I mean, Men Who Stare at Goats was a clown show compared to the Soviets are doing stuff far more advanced than that 40 years ago. Anyways, so back to the document. According to the Pullman, the Soviets have realized the immense military advantage of the psychic ability known as astral projection, out of the body travel. And this reference details are given for some of Pullman's work in the U.S. with astral projection. So we can go through. You want me to read all these? Okay,
Yeah.
other scientists and mediums interested in this work are Professor H.A. Kahn of Northern Arizona University, Dr. Charles Tart of the University of Southern California, and Dr. V. Inyashin, maybe Inyushin of Alma Ata. Sybil Leek, a noted astrologer and author, states there's a great danger that within the next 10 years, the Soviets will be able to steal our top secrets by using out of body spies. So there's a book, Moulden and Carrington. Astral projection can be found in the excellent article by J. Fraser Nichol in Psychic. Okay. So astral projection, out of body, right? Astral energies, astral forms. Something that I looked into, in the past, in sort of like concerts, right? Even say Grateful Dead shows or whatever, doing certain types of astral work as well. So you think about frequency range, right? You think about, so we're not dividing, these are just, they call it bioinformation field. It's just a different range, right? Now, we go into astral entities, we go into things like that, astral travel. I think the astral stuff is really, some of this is around, right? I mean, it is occurring for sure. And so we go through this a bit later and see some of the actual ways this is formulated. Within, again, which I think is cool. It's like they have a scientific framing that explains this stuff. And, again, this doesn't mean you need to trip out and think, oh my God, there's a hand coming down, from the sky. But there are things that can be done, right? And astral projection, astral entities, even, what do you think? What is the World Economic Forum? What is this virtual reality? That's a type of astral projection.
No doubt.
It's a technological form of astral projection.
Yes.
It
Crowley said he could astral project and talk to people around the world. That was one of the training things that he did. And there's kind of an infamous set of pictures of David Bowie in an astral travel uniform. He's a full-on ceremonial magician. And the reason you can tell is there's a silver string. So when you astral travel, you're supposed to pull the silver string to get back into your body, like when your astral body leaves or something. Crazy, huh? Have you ever seen those pictures?
I haven't seen those,
Let
but
me see if I find them.
yeah. So there's a book mentioned. It's the Trail of the Serpent, written in the 1920s, but it's about a high level occultist who, under pseudonym, wrote about all these occult orders and what they were doing. But one of the things they talk about is these etheric communication channels, right? And how a person's personality is broken down to, right? I mean, their inner self, inner will. Maybe outside they're very successful, right? A Mason, you can be very, moving forward in the world, or whatever. But they would get these visitations from the masters. But in this book, the author states that these masters were using astral communication techniques. They're physical human beings embodied here, but the disciples are getting these astral. Oh my gosh! Oh wow!
This is his astral travel uniform right there. And Sybille, by the way, was a witch. She was a well-known public witch in the UK. So they mentioned, it's interesting that this article mentioned her. Yeah, Brian says he's read about the strings. Yeah, that's what that is. I think I have another picture too. Let me see. He did oh yeah, so he used that in Black Star at the end, when I don't think he was.
That was. You remember that? I just want to touch on that because I don't think I ever did a broadcast on it. But remember, right when that album came out, he died. There was these huge, hundreds of these photographs. Remember that? There was an account with all these like bizarre, but very expensive, picture. I mean, professionally done pictures with all these images and occult things.
Yeah, the Black Star is something else. Smiley face, the whole bit, the moon, the occulting. But this image, I think on the right, is either from Black Star or one of his final videos. He was telling what his religion was, which was ceremonial magician. I mean, I think even Damien Eccles said, Bowie's a ceremonial magician, and Eccles would know. It's one to the other.
Well, this is, it's a reference also, Jean Cocteau, right? The French film director. And the Orpheus, familiar with that film, Orpheus? Orfeo. Lots of astral projection. They step into the closet like that.
Right. So there's the closet right there. That's
what I'm saying. That's a reference to that. But you walk through that into the mirror. You walk through the mirror.
There's tons of pictures of Bowie with mirrors too. I mean, I can find
so the mirror is like the astral portal, right? But again, I mean, certain
these
things
are like, this guy's a world figure doing like Kabbalah and astral travel.
There he is.
He's literally drawing.
He's drawing it. That's a kilophone.
It's like the full Kabbalistic 10 spheres, right?
But at the same time, at least in all the pictures you've shown, right? Does he seem like the willful master? He seems more like the androgynous slave.
He's a little bit of he's definitely got the occulted thing, the androgyny, the knowledge of the stuff. He's made so many like hand signals and stuff that Crowley would make, like on public, much like Jimmy Page. Like he's making the sign of the interior. So these guys are all, I mean, this is a whole nother show, but I have to post my old Black Star analysis because it's good. But it's just an example that some of these guys are doing this stuff,
Well, that there was so much, like all those pictures I went through. I don't know if I'm sure they're gone now, right? They put, there was this, what was it on? I forget that, photo. Maybe it's not even one of those photo hosting sites,
right,
and
like Flickr or something.
Yeah, but just so much in that. That was an occult ritual, and that was, so. Even though this is sort of more on the scientific side, of course, these interplay, right? But, the other side is once you look in the mirror, like John D., you got your scrying mirror. How many, I'm communicating with angels. Right. I don't want to swear, but how the F do you know that's an angel?
Right. Well, one of the giveaways of D is that there was like all kinds of like the entities were trying to get him to wife swap, which is definitely not his
I remember that.
yeah, so it's like, come on, dude. But yeah, there's like they have the D chamber of reflection. This is like Bowie apparently had this kind of setup that he would do, where he had the scrying mirror, the skull and bones, writing, candle, all that stuff. Like there's a setup. So I mean, these guys are doing this stuff. Like there's no question.
Yeah, so we can go
Station to Station. That's the famous song where he sings about Crowley and all that stuff. Have you heard that song before?
what's it called?
Station to Station.
Oh yeah, but I did not hear it in that. You know what I mean? Like I heard it, I know the song relatively well, but not in that. Whenever I heard it, I didn't, have the knowledge base. So what's the connection with Crowley in it?
Station to Station is this kind of Crowley era, and it's Station to Station on the Kabbalah, right? So,
Okay, yeah. But anyway, so this and some of this stuff too. But let's. So you may be familiar with this or not, but what was it? Oh God, Michael Aquino, right? So supposedly, according to some, documentation that so he was cloaking this technological types of mental manipulation under the cloak of black magic. Okay, so they said like they had was it Pinochet, the other guy, the Panama guy that was deposed. Yeah, I'm talking about the guy in Panama.
Guy in Panama, the guy who ruled Panama.
Yeah, the guy ruled Panama that was overthrown under
Yeah.
Bush the first.
I see his face. He always had that like machete, and he was banging it around, right?
Yeah,
he got arrested. He's in a jail somewhere.
Yeah, but the thing was that so he was, again, I think
Manuel Noriega.
Manuel. Oh yeah, I mean that you get these call the memory dog or sometimes. So Manuel Noriega, but supposedly Aquino was convincing Noriega that he had these magical powers, black magic powers. He was actually using technological means with this thing here. So this is actually an awesome movie. I'm just looking at the John Cocteau thing. All this hypnotic stuff they're going. It's a great movie. You haven't seen it.
John Cocteau Orpheus. Let me see.
Yeah, 1950. I have it. And there's the almost exact same closet. I'm looking at it on my.
Orpheus. Okay, so it's black and white, right?
Yeah.
Janus Films, no less, right? Let me see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, but definitely interesting to watch. You want to get a sense, like real, revelation type stuff. This is definitely.
They had the whole movie's on. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot in there. So anyways, you travel between the mirrors, parallel selves, et cetera, et cetera. So
wow.
It almost that closet, that cabinet thing is very similar to the cabinet in the film. That's
walking through the mirror. Wow. So he's walking through mirrors and stuff.
Look at his hands.
Wow.
Perhaps yours.
Oh, so they both walk through it. Wow.
And then it goes to this hole. Yeah, it's quite. There's
a lot. It's another episode.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, these people are practicing astral travel. There's no question about it. Or yeah. I mean, and then this is like the scientific paper on it, right?
So, so you can read number 2 on page 31.
31. ESP and psychokinesis. Soviet research in ESP was started in the 1920s at Leningrad University by V.M. Bekhterev. In his early work, Bekhterev collaborated with Durov to investigate the effects of mental suggestion on a group of performing dogs. It was believed that telepathic communication depended on electromagnetic radiation. Vasilev, shown in illustration 1 at the Bekhterev Brain Institute, set out to identify these electromagnetic waves that carry telepathy. By 1937, Vasilev had amassed evidence that known electromagnetic waves do not carry telepathy. Tests were conducted in electricity shielded chambers and over extreme distances, denying the passage of electromagnetic fields. Some of the long range telepathy experiments have been published, explaining the various techniques employed, including classical texts with the Zener cards and more unique tests with strobe lights and codes. Do you want me to read the next paragraph?
Yeah.
3. Professor Vasilev died in late 1965 or early 1966, and the task of continuing telepathy research was taken by Dr. Kogan. Dr. Kogan is chairman of the bioinformation section of the Popov Radio and Technical Institute in Moscow. This individual is still trying to wed telepathy to the electromagnetic spectrum. Discussion as to the existence of telepathy has been bandied about the Soviet Union and elsewhere for some time. For the sake of research, the Soviet Union accepts the validity of ESP, even though the argument as to the mode of transmission continues. Professor Naumov, chairman of the Division of Technical Parapsychology at the A.S. Popov Institute mentioned above, conducted long-range telepathy tests from Moscow to several other cities. Illustration 2 is a photograph of Naumov with associates.
So check that out, right? Chairman of the Division of Technical Parapsychology. That's not a hippie commune where they're smoking weed all day and playing some bongos in the mud, listening to the Grateful Dead play, rambling.
Right, here it is. You're talking the Grateful Dead. Brian says he was gang stalked while being groomed to be a career deadhead, and they use voice to skull tech on me at festivals.
So this shit happens. I've experienced. Okay, I was not going to mention this. I have definitely a number of these things. These things do exist.
They exist.
You
can
can
do
get
voice
through
to
them.
skull. Yeah.
They, if you're not strong and don't find a higher ground, they can absolutely completely destroy you. But they don't have to, right? So so we go on, but so so we have this, size systems. Okay, now this is an important one. So this is number 5. I want to go to page 33. Number 5.
533. Let's go.
Or you can read 4 too.
Okay. In 1967, the Soviet Maritime News reported cosmonauts, when in orbit, seemed to be able to communicate telepathically more easily with each other than with people on Earth. A PSI, short for Psychic Faculty Training System, has been incorporated in the cosmonaut training program, but the news provided no further details. Some informal reports related to Ostrander and Schroeder indicate that the Soviets are working on PSI systems for space use, involving not just telepathy but also precognition. 5. Kogan's systematic parapsychology research could also be of potential value to the overall Soviet cybernetic research and development program. Efforts being made to optimize sensory inputs in the interest of controlling the quality of human motor activity are well known as the ultimate Soviet goal of achieving a perfect cybernetic man. Wow.
1972. I'm going to go over that again. Kogan's systematic parapsychology research could also be of potential value to the overall Soviet cybernetic research and development program. Now, just to recall, if people aware or not, but so cybernetics, cyber, right? Cybernetics, binary code, cybernetics, Macy conferences. Cybernetics was a big thing around the time of the Kinzer reports, right? But cybernetics faded out. It was considered discredited, faded away. Soviet Union kept going with cybernetics to this day, and it was is integrative, functional. I mean, we're not just talking, we're talking about all these different levels, right? All these different factors, correlate factors, this, that. Cybernetics allows that. But Soviet Union, the cybernetic man, what are we looking at right now? This is what 20. How many years later?
50 years.
50 years. Oh shit.
52.
Oh,
And then we're looking at the cybernetic man.
Yep. So overall effort made to optimize sensory inputs in the interest of controlling human motor activity. So just go over that. Optimize sensory inputs. That doesn't mean that, you're getting the supercharged brain, the ultimate Tony Robbins, just did an 8 ball of coke. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sure Tony doesn't do drugs, but I'm
He
saying
certainly looks like it.
he's very hyper. But you know what I mean? Like that we think of optimize, but we're talking about optimize for this purpose, right? And that may mean stimulation of certain types of sensory inputs. Foregrounding, making it more powerful. It also may mean distorting, confusing sensory modalities, right? That's a very important thing, is confusing modalities, confusing something. This is a really important thing. I won't go into too much, but someone can have a maybe it's some kind of small injury, medical issue, or something or other. This, this can be suppressed into the subconscious and create an entire subconscious dissociational pattern, right? The root of it may be, wreathed in tear, and maybe just, oh, my dad slapped me, when I was 5, and now I've got like a loose tooth. All this build up over layers and layers and layers of, it's almost like scar tissue without healing it. This is a level of where you can very simply manipulate with a small stimulus when you've optimized the sensory input channels. What are you doing when you're gaming all day? Okay, even I got my gamer chair, even though the last time I played a game was like an Atari back in the 80s.
Yeah, you're in another kind of headspace. You're in a totally distant headspace. Totally 100% brain capture too. Like if it's an intense game, like no external stimuli.
Well, no, I played a few times. I played, briefly with my son. Is like, play this. I had when I stopped, I had a very vivid alteration of my sensory perception and field, especially like first person games, right?
Oh, they're intense. They lock you in too.
But it directly affected I've seen also movies, right? You see a film, actually, I know you guys, I remember seeing Fight Club. I walked out of the theater. There was an effect of my perception of the whole environment I was in. Certain times, certain very powerful movies, right? You walk out of that movie. But yeah, video games, but they're also augmenting certain types of perception as well, right? Go ahead.
No, I just totally agree with you. I totally agree. I was looking, Brian, thank you for the $5 donation. A little bit helps, I can tell you for sure. So, but yeah, no, it's crazy. It's crazy. But cybernetic man, like still thinking about the cybernetic man in 72.
I mean, that's amazing, right? The perfect cybernetic man controlling the quality of human motor activity. So think about, again, we have to look at nuanced words. Controlling the quality, right? You look at quality is, you could say, the value, the the resonance, direction, the inner, like, look, what is, say, like a mind controlled puppet assassin? They're doing very refined motor behavior, but they're not connected,
right,
with that behavior. That's also part of the quality of the behavior, right? And look at all these things, like these, on the cell phone. This is another example, right? People get almost this, texting with their thumbs. This is a motor behavior.
Yeah, it is.
And it becomes like a trance type of behavior.
No question. Don't you think those kids on TikTok are in some kind of trance?
Oh, like, yeah.
Shooting stuff out, watching videos, flashing lights, flashing colors. Crazy. Pretty close to cybernetic.
Yeah. You want to read number 6?
I will do my best. Let's see. 6. As mentioned above, the Soviets seem preoccupied with the search for the energy that carries or facilitates telepathy transmission. Is it electromagnetic or not? The search for this unknown energy has led the Soviets to Karelian photography, named after its inventors Semyon and Valentina Karelian. The Karelians developed a technique of photographing with a high frequency electrical field involving a specially constructed high frequency spark generator tuned up and down between 75,000 and 200,000 electrical oscillations per second. Their first photographs showed turquoise and reddish yellow patterns of flares coming out of specific channels within leaves. A magnified picture of a finger showed craters of light and flares. Illustration 3. By the 1960s, research on bioluminescence revealed by Karelian photography was going on in many Soviet universities. Perfected techniques of photographing the play of high frequency currents on humans, plants, and animals, as well as on inanimate matter, have set the Soviets on some striking discoveries about the energetical nature of man. Bioplasma is a term coined by the Soviets for bioluminescent phenomenon or energy. Scientists at the Kazakh State University at Alma Ata have found that illnesses tend to show up in advance as a disordered play of flares from the bioplasma long before they manifest in the physical body. According to Ostrander and Schroeder, the Soviets may be attempting to link Karelian photography with computers, among other things, to instantly analyze the spectra of colors appearing in the very colored flares from the living body. Wow.
So there's a lot in there, right? So I know we're
But like predetermining illness is based on your energy. And then, there's some people, it's kind of like the mind body connection to illness too. Is like if people's whatever charges them up bioluminescence, as a predicate, if it's off to illness, like some people wouldn't use that same language, but they think that there's something mind body connection, right? Does that make sense?
yeah. Well, I would offer that some of these things, these types of perceptions, while not necessarily discreetly conscious, were, we're known, right? We're just because I think these are, you know, they're if you're not suppressed, if you're not like living in the a British factory, sort of Dickinsonian, you know, hell realm, slavery, wage slave factory, toxic, getting beaten every day. That's one thing. That's a physical situation. That's a life situation. But I think, even okay, bringing it to say a full visual sensory awareness, but I think these things, they're not that mysterious or magical, right? It's just a lot of things have been, we call the, old grandma would always know if I was down and give me this. I mean, these are examples of it. Doesn't have to be, super far out magical.
Right, right.
But what's very interesting is so they're looking at, light patterns, this a human energetic, bioenergetic field that we most people don't even know exists, and yet it is part of you. It is how you'll sense it when you connect with the environment, right? But these are also um you know they don't have to manifest in awareness as this exact thing, but you'll get a sense, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This may be the cause of that sense. You know what I mean? Like you're around somebody, you say, this is a bad vibe. I got this. Well, this is the energetic field, electromagnetic field spectra. This is what they use for targeting of specific types of individual based, you know, uh, frequency modification weaponry. We can go to the modern iterations of stuff, which is almost this has this piece that's been sort of dissolved, right? All this parasite stuff became just brain, right?
Right.
Even Giordano, right? The expert, on I believe so.
Right.
So he
Yeah.
and
The
that's
modern Giordano. There's also the Giordano Bruno, who was kind of like the 16th century kind of magician too, and they
yeah,
burned him at the stake.
yeah. But the thing is that see, one thing is that this whole level has been completely rendered invisible or rendered ridiculous or rendered overly, oh my God, I'm in an astral dimension and everything's so freaky. No, you're here. You're just noticing things that you haven't noticed before. That's why you have to have a ground, right? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so bioplasma, using this to target people with frequencies, to target groups, because there are, I mean, just on a normal scientific level, you could, your brain, they call it your brain imprint. It's like your fingerprint. They can find a single person through their brain, whatever resonance targeting, right? So to what extent, see some of the stuff in Hollywood movies, but then your brain, I mean, they can find, it's like a fingerprint, but you're giving off a signature pattern.
Right.
And now it's just saying it's just material. Well, how do we know that this stuff has not been integrated, even though it's not?
Right. Good point. Like what's happened in the last 50 years, right?
Yeah,
There's two or three, there's at least one or two iterations of technology beyond what's, publicly known or accessible. I'm convinced of that. Like we don't know what's going on in space. We don't know some of the secret power, energy, some of the weaponry we've got, it's just not public.
yeah. And so, anyways, so a lot of research on this. Um, I think we're hitting the what time we started at 8. Yeah, so um, so
we're headed towards we've been streaming for 1 hour and 15 minutes. Do you want to go
okay,
another 15 minutes?
yeah, man, I can
Okay,
do
so
that. So yeah, but this is just so I just find this very interesting, right? That
yeah.
and it's again, I mentioned like poisoning the well. You encode certain types of information, right? Or you can also encode it that, oh, this is demonic. You can't access that. You can't experience that. You can't see that. This is, evil. Well, not necessarily, but the thing is that
Well, how are you defining this and drawing the line? Because, like in the Christian or maybe Old Testament, you're not supposed to be a soothsayer. You're not supposed to be a New Ager kind of type of person involved in this. But if this is really just a natural element of human existence, is this kind of extra parapsychology or extra sensory perception, then is it prohibited?
well,
Is it biblically prohibited or is it socially prohibited?
I think at least my understanding in the Bible is that it's more like don't look. There's many cases of like saints giving prophecies,
Right.
but it's but
they call it in the post Christ, it's the gifts of the Spirit, right? How
exactly.
similar are the gifts of the Spirit to these kind of, what do you call it, booties? What did you call it earlier?
Oh, the cities,
City. How different is that?
the
How
same.
different? It's just a different word, but they're pretty similar kind of gifts of the Spirit: healing, increased perception, prophecy, dreams, ability to learn new languages. Like that's kind of the power of the subconscious mind, maybe being released. I mean, at what point are these artificial barriers? Why are they? I mean, is it just because of the culture and the language? Because they're kind of the same things.
Well, no, I mean it's certainly they're kind of exactly the same thing, but we have to see that it's very different approach. Okay,
Yeah,
here's an
right.
approach meaning way of integrating this or what it means. So I can go to I can go walk by the lake, near my house and look at the geese landing and see the light of the trees and say, wow, this is an amazing place. Another person, I'm going to go here. Oh, wow, I can put my factory here. I'm going to build
Right,
my factory and use
right.
this water, and then I'll just
I
dump
can
all
make
the
$1 million and cut down all these trees, and
yeah, and
who cares about the pollution or whatever, or anybody else
but
using this lake, like enjoying the beauty of the lake.
but you know what I mean. You're enjoying the beauty, and you're then using it in instrumental means, right? You're taking that, and so, but the lake is the same. right? So you know what I mean. So in this case, you have things that were put. I mean, remember we went last show. I taught the warning. Right, he said, "Do not use this for evil purposes," because this is where you go into. Yes, can this cross into demonic? Absolutely, 100%. It's that's the that's where you can see the reality and even being the science, quote unquote.
Cross into astral world.
Yeah, astro. I go. But let's do just page 35.
All right, let's go.
That.
35. 7, should I start?
Yep, got it.
7, it is believed that if there is any positive basis for Carillion photography in the quote bioplasma unquote body of humans, the Soviets may be closer than is thought on the controlled use of the apport techniques in possible astral projection phenomenon. Dr. A. Podshibykin, an electrophysiologist at the Institute of Clinical Physiology in Kiev, has found that by charting acupuncture points, a correlation exists between the bioplasma and changes on the surface of the sun. What? At the exact moment solar flares, sunspots occur, there are changes in the electrical potential of the skin's acupuncture points. These electrical charges are measured by a toboscope, probably a simple Wheatstone bridge device. In some way, the bioplasma of the body is sensitive to these solar explosions the instant they occur, even though it takes about 2 days for the cosmic particles to reach the Earth. Wow.
That's pretty intense, right?
That is. There's definitely a connection between the human body and the sun. There's something going on. Like every time I read about it, it's like super important to get sunshine.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, these are the things, right? So we see this, you know, this. It's like, um, we're given, at least within say certain range of the culture, at least you grow up in America, you're given a certain box that this is your life, this is your experience. Now you want to go out of that box, you go into this other box. Oh, I'm you can, I mean, the thing is that to actually, there's a fast path to develop these things, which often relates to you're going against, like, against nature, right? You're going against what is, you know what I mean? And then, but this is the whole point, right? Of the whole system of materialism, of this process. But also, I mean, again, it's, so I think bioplasma is very important. And if we see the way that because everything, like, what is the bioplasma? Okay, it's awesome. I have a brain, and maybe I'm having this thought formation, or I'm having this activation. But wait, bioplasma, or my whole energy body, right? The field of my heart, myself as connected with the sun, with the whole planet. That's, to me, seems like a much broader experience than just the brain. But the brain provides a master control point, right? For these types, some of these energies cannot be controlled within, sort of the imposed 6G paradise, right? Or what, the smart city, the virtual reality, to a certain degree, some people are already in that completely, right? They're, I mean, I don't know how they function. I guess they function pretty well, but I mean, some people are like zombies, they are zombified. I mean,
Yeah.
they think they're conscious, they're doing something in their life, but they are not fully, I mean, or else they're deluded completely, or else they're evil. So I mean, that's and some people are just pure evil too, because it's much easier.
Right. I agree with that. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm kind of rambling here, but
No, but I mean, it all ties in together. But this really incredible, this research and the fact that it's like scientific approach for this stuff that they're doing it, and they found these strange connections that I think are validated just by like, standard conversational stuff. Like they're not scientific, but like really good to be out in the sun. People do have like you get an impact. Your mom knows when you're sad. The people can tell when you're looking ill or before you get sick. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
think that's all real.
exactly. So Anyways, maybe we can we'll just read number 9 and we'll just close out with that.
Call it out. All right, let's do it. The most significant use of Kirlian photography is in the area of psychokinesis and or mind over matter (PK). Dr. Gennady Sergeyev of the AA Ukhtomsky Military Institute in Leningrad believes Kirlian photography may uncover the mechanism of PK. Sergeyev is a prominent mathematician for the Soviet military who works closely with an electrophysiologist from the University of Leningrad, Dr. Pavlova.
Let me just stop here. So we look at some of these bioenergy, electrophysiology. You ever even heard of that?
Nope.
Electrophysiologist. That's a entire scientific discipline.
It's real though, right? Isn't the brain and the body just full of electricity?
Yeah, but physiologists. So most of the behaviors were physiologists, right? So everyone says, "Oh, there's mind control, but there's also, control of the nervous system, of the glandular system." So I'm just putting that as something to look into is electrophysiology because that's, I mean, seems like I'm sure it exists now, but it's sort of a they're doing it in the
incredible.
70s.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Dr. L. Pavlova, great. That's actually a dessert. Have you ever had a Pavlova? They're delicious.
No,
it's the number one dessert in Australia for some reason.
okay.
Look it up. Sergeyev has devised important mathematical and statistical methods for analyzing the EEG, which allowed parapsychologists to follow and depict the actions of telepathy in the brain. The type of work reported by Sergeyev in 1967 and 1968 is just now beginning to appear in the U.S. efforts to understand the transmission of telepathy. Sergeyev has conducted several years of intensive lab research on the outstanding PK psychic in Leningrad, Nina Kulagina, pseudonym Nelia Mikhailova. Illustration 4 is a photograph of Dr. Sergeyev, and illustration 5 is a photograph of Miss Kulagina. Sergeyev registered heightened biological luminescence radiating from Kulagina's eyes during the apparent movement of objects by PK. Sergeyev postulates that the bioplasma of the human body must interact with the environment to produce PK. Sergeyev emphasizes that when target objects are placed in a vacuum, Kulagina is unable to move them. Barkus in the United States reports some unusual occurrences during psychic photography, especially of the eyes. Reportedly, Kulagina has caused the movement of a wide range of non-magnetic objects under strict scientific control. Large crystal bowls, clock pendulums, bread, matches, etc. In one test, a raw egg was placed in a salt solution inside a sealed aquarium 6 feet away from her. Researchers report she was able to use PK to separate the yolk from the white of the egg. Observations by Western scientists of Miss Kulagina's PK ability has been reported with verification of her authentic ability. These same Western scientists have reported that as of February 1971, they have not been able to visit or observe Miss Kulagina. A veil of secrecy has been placed on Sergeyev and Miss Kulagina for unknown reasons.
Okay, and I'll just read the last one here. So again, we could go on and on, but we're looking at seriously studied stuff, right? This is not like a DEI induction workshop.
Right.
Critical race theory, transgender thing. There was no scientific basis whatsoever. A bunch of retards spouting nonsense. Oops, did I say that? I sure did, and I meant it.
Yeah.
But
I mean it too.
But you know what I mean? Like this is this is done seriously. Okay, anyway. So continuing, rather than simply observing PK, the Soviets typically turn to instrumentation. Right, that means using technology to monitor what's actually happening in the environment. Let's see how we can measure this, or how can we devise means of measurement. Right, if we can't access certain frequencies with our current electromagnetic thing, can we devise another thing? Right, so instrumentation, if I'm making sense, it's a detection. Right, you have a frequency detector, what I mean, you have certain things, infrared spectrum, infrared sight, right? So they're opening up new modes of potential, right? You know what I mean? Like a microscope takes something human eye can't see, magnifies it. Anyways, so Okay, so important body functions during your PK demonstration. The Soviets found that at the moment an object begins to move, all of Miss Kolungia's body processes sped up dramatically, heart, breathing, brain activity, and the electromagnetic fields around her body all begin to pulse in rhythm. That's right. That's entrainment. That's vibration. That's music. Soviet researchers postulate that it was these rhythmic vibrations that cause objects to be attracted or repelled to her. Um, then we have its, um, you know, okay. And then one more scientists report that Kulingina has been able to stop the beating of a frog's heart in a solution and to reactivate it. This is perhaps the most significant PK test done. Its military implications in controlled offensive behavior, if true, are extremely important. So,
Wow, that's crazy. That's amazing.
yeah.
Were you the guy? I think I was on a different show with somebody else. Did I show you the guy from Ring of Fire who could light paper with his hand?
Oh, is it the guy in Indonesia? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the guy that he stopped doing it. Right.
Yeah, no, he was instructed by his
Yeah.
master to stop doing this stuff, but he was basically showing.
But show
off.
this. I've seen this years
Yeah,
ago.
but he could do electrical
real.
things with acupuncture, right?
Yeah.
He could charge the acupuncture needles. So, watch this. I don't think that this is faked, but I mean, these are two skeptics. These are two English skeptics watching him.
No, it's
These
not
aren't
fake.
like his followers or something. I wish I could get the sound of this, but
the
this
videos.
is it. This is like they take
the
this.
fire. Yeah.
Chi Kung Master. Pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah. So
then he came back the next day. He's like, nope, can't do this. Oh, and he was like, yeah, he was like doing electricity on these guys.
He's literally, I mean, these are
giving them shocks.
Yeah. And you can't really fake that. Oh, the bullet, right? The thing with the yeah. Don't they shoot him? I think.
I forgot something there's some kind of crazy stuff he does. Let me see if I can get this down there. We can watch it.
There's also the iron crotch. With that, they pulled a lot of those videos.
No, I don't remember that at all. I don't.
So iron crotch. It's a technique. I only just a brief tangent, but it has to do with the kidney meridian. But it's like they have I think they took down all these videos. They have this, the guru or whatever, the master guys just kicking him in the balls, hitting him in the nuts with these huge things. They have him pulling a friggin' airplane with his balls.
Get out!
No, seriously. Much. And so my brother, he was actually in this Chinese newspaper on the front page because he went to this iron crotch thing.
Wow.
And it was only, but basically what you do is you take this silken thread and you tie weights onto your testicles and you move the weights around, and they have the video, with the Chinese music, fly, relax. And you have this, but that's iron crotch. But I mean, they have just like punch, but that's the chi power, that's, So you you get cut, it will not cut you. Right. This is how the karate chop, but that's a a limited example. But again, this stuff,
I mean, it's always been rumored to work, right? Can you hear the audio for this?
I first met him.
Can you hear that audio?
Yep.
Okay, let's watch this.
In the early 80s, in a Chinatown of urban Java. He didn't want his real name or address revealed, so we called him DJ for Dynamo Jack. He was only a healer, he said, but he did direct a powerful energy generated from his own body into his patients. Sometimes he used the needles, sometimes just his hands. He called the energy chi, and it was so strong that he usually needed a grounder to hold his patients' feet. For years, we followed him around Java on his healing rounds, pleading to be allowed to film him, but he always refused, saying his powers resulted from a type of meditation with an ancient tradition of secrecy. It was only when my brother Lorne was suffering from a serious eye infection that he finally allowed us to film him in 1987.
It was nothing like any acupuncture I'd ever had. I was getting really powerful electric shocks and couldn't control my movements at all.
Yin yang, positive and negative, you know. And my positive from here and my negative from here. And we meet together, this can get like electricity.
And is this because you're special? You have a special sort of
It's for meditation every day.
It's meditation that does it.
Meditation every day. Like you can touch me, like this. It's nothing, okay? It's my burn. Just like this.
For our sound recordist, it was also a shocker. He then took our newspaper outside and showed us how qi can also be used to set things on fire. When he heard we'd shown this footage in public, he was very upset and refused all our future efforts to contact him again. As the years passed, we sadly resigned ourselves to never seeing him again. My brother Lorne never did, for by 1997 he was already dead, when I again found myself with DJ, now treating me for an eye problem. But it wasn't this that brought me back. He had tracked me down out of the blue and invited me to tell me a story. He had just returned from 2 years on a deep meditation.
I probably shouldn't play the whole thing. This thing can get pulled. Actually, I'm not on YouTube, but there could be like a copyright violation. But I don't think I played that long of it. It's for commentary or comment, but it's pretty interesting. You can look it up. It's Ring of Fire for people who want to watch the whole thing. It's Ring of Fire. Chi Kung Master burns paper with his hand. I'll put a link to it. People can watch it. Make their own decision what they think.
Yeah. It's a couple in like Alphaville and then Orpheus by John Cocteau.
Orpheus.
Yeah.
Hans, where can people find your podcast, your website, and what you've been working on? I know you have a show coming up in Ohio, right?
I'm doing like a workshop, like a retreat. So that's 23rd, 24th of August right here this month in a place called Buckeye Lake. Beautiful place. Come out to Ohio.
Central Ohio, right?
Yeah. I'm out. I rented this big place, so I hope at least somebody comes, or else I'm gonna have like a great party. I got a number of different artists, musicians. So I just wanted to do something like in nature with trying to connect to some of these, positive aspects of music and this and that. So it's like a getaway, whatever.
It's a retreat and music and good vibes, good energy, good bio plasma, right? Bioplasma charger.
It's the thing is that even you start without like freaking out about it, but you can start to sense this stuff around you. You know what I mean? The other side of that is you have to be more aware, and maybe certain depending on your lifestyle, on how, you know what I mean, like where you are. That's why, again, what I start out with, ultimately you got to find some kind of ground, spiritual ground,
right,
and in what's, you know what I mean,
good kind of spiritual grounding.
Not and then you can handle those things. But there are lots of things that, like this bioenergetic stuff, like you can start to sense it, not imagining it. But the one thing that I wonder about, though, is that this stuff is kind of, the level of research in the 70s is kind of dissipated, right? There's a lot of this stuff is, I don't know, like Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle, like his fake name, live in the now. Well, okay, what does that even mean? It means, it's like The Secret. Oh, just you're not wealthy. Oprah's like, you're poor because you don't think right. I'm a billionaire because my mind, I just have the right thoughts. Okay, You know what I mean? And so it's like the chosen. It's like a type of Puritanism, right? Or the elect. These are the elect. Just another scam. All this is misdirection from the actual potentials. But I do think as our historical timeline intensifies, things get more and more weird. You may start finding that there's some of these things will, you know, come to you or whatever. But it's just like anything else. Your body itself is a miracle. The sun, the sky, this world is divine. I believe ultimately you have to
I
go
think
into
you're
that
right.
space.
Yeah. Correct.
But other side of it is that there's energies, everything can be manipulated, right? I think we have a space of free will. We have pure free will. What does that mean though? Do you even have a will? Do you even know what you are, where you are? I don't know. I don't understand everything. I'm not claiming to, but we see, as we'll go further in this, it's um in a certain way it's empowering too, right? Because especially with the level of stuff that's happening, you can start to really become aware, maybe some of this knowledge, right? Or these, whatever you want to call it, availabilities of the higher capacities of the human being will be called into play. You know what I mean? If you don't, if you're living in just black and white little box at a two-dimensional world, like your mind, your consciousness is just like this little TV set. You know what I mean? Like you don't really see around you. You just see, you're like a robotic construction. All this stuff can happen in the background. Again, we mentioned amplify, optimize sensory control to create the cybernetic man, right? And it doesn't just mean they don't want you to function. They want to make you function in the way that's required.
Right. It's control. Soviet control.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah. All right, William. Well, hey, man, thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, people check out your website. It's hansuter.com. So I'll put a link to that and also a link to your podcast so people can watch and listen to the last other podcasts we've done there. And I know you're having new guests too. So people check that out. And that concludes Advanced Soviet Research on Cybernetics, Biofield Energetics, and Cognitive Restructuring, episode 8. Will there be an episode 9?
We're not done yet. I don't know.
Okay, we're not there. There will be an episode 9, people. We have not concluded. That was only the conclusion of this episode. So
no. I've got a whole nother like mind blowing thing.
Okay.
Maybe we could, if we could wrap.
Well, these are open talks. It's okay. It's all good. I'm not worried about it.
Well, no. I mean, we could wrap this one up, and
no, let's not. We'll do another one. We'll do another one later this month. Okay. It's all good. This paper was amazing, though. I'm really glad you introduced me to it, and to the audience too. People are really interested in this. Like I can tell because the downloads are, people are listening to it. They're interested in this. And thanks, Brian. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks for all the listeners on X. We had over 100 live listeners, so that's kind of a nice change. Usually, I'm usually just recording or something, but I appreciate all you guys. X, Twitter, Rockfin, and now move to Rumble. Rumble hasn't censored any of my content yet, and they're not nannying me saying it's hurtful information or misinformation or something like that. But Hans, thanks so much for your time. Stay there. I'm going to turn it on. Stay there.